have Mr. Rajeev Talwar with us. He's the immediate past president of PhD Chamber, and he is here to give us his insights on the Budget 2020.
Good afternoon and thank you. I think this is once again a budget which will lead to a lot of discussions with the government, with the Ministry of Finance, with the officers and within the chamber itself. Why? I think there are certain hopes which have not fructified, and there are certain provisions which have been made according to what we had recommended in the PHDCCI. The big thing, of course, is the abolition or the doing away with the dividend distribution tax. That's a very major thing. Number two, we wanted demand to be increased. I think there are two ways in which that has been dealt with. Number one, government expenditure is going to increase by almost 20 or 21%. That is a very positive feature because government, when it makes an expenditure, money reaches the people, jobs are created and demand sees an upside. Number two, there's been a very large outlay for the agriculture, irrigation and rural development sector. This would make a big difference in raising demand because in the rural sector, the moment incomes go up, because there is no tax on rural income or agricultural income, then it immediately comes into the market for goods to be bought and services to be bought. So that's a rather good thing. Third, for exports, they've said that yes, taxes and duties will be refunded. I just hope that there is some digital method of doing it, because otherwise the outcry with the exporters has been that first of all we lose a large amount of time, 16 to 17 days before their goods can reach the ports and be shipped across. And therefore, for them to come into the international market takes much longer than in many other countries. And secondly, it's been a complaint that refunds are very sparsely given, they're very delayed, and therefore there should be some method of making a quick refund on that. The fourth matter, which I think is a positive one, is the litigation and dispute resolution scheme in the income tax, where they've said that by 31st of March 2020, if you accept the demand, then no interest and no penalty will be payable. And if you complete the process by 30th of June, then it will be the demand plus a nominal tax. So I think those are the positives. And for manufacturing, I'm only hopeful that the listed companies, and when dividends are announced and there is no dividend tax payable, there will be then extra funds available with the companies to reinvest and do fresh business. That would also apply in the case of subsidiary companies giving a dividend to their parent companies.
Right. That's quite insightful. And another point that we wanted to touch upon is the real estate, of course.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, for real estate, the big thing which has been done is only one, that for affordable housing, the infrastructure status for getting approvals up to 31st of March 2021 will be exempt from tax if the profits are reinvested. That is the only big thing. And one is hoping that there will be some upside in affordable housing demand when the middle class and the salaried class are given certain reliefs in tax, the tax slabs have been lowered. But for that also, I think one will have to read what are the exemptions which the Honorable Finance Minister said 70 exemptions out of 100 have already been done away with. What is the impact of those? So we'll have to wait and see. But there are a large number of other things which should have been done. And I think that gets us back to having a regular dialogue with the Finance Ministry and the Finance Minister, and perhaps by using the services of the Ministry of Housing also. What are those? We had asked for a once rollover. Their debts. The government has provided for 25,000 crores fund to help out these companies in distress. But if the distress is right across the board, then I think it was very valid for NAREDCO as well as CREDAI to say that yes, there should be a once rollover like it was done in 2008. It's not something new. Secondly, we were asking for a rental policy for residential apartments to be announced and to be introduced. This was based on the success of the commercial leasing experience, which is where most of the foreign direct investment is coming. Those are the areas, and that is the segment where many companies have found some relief to themselves because the sales of residential apartments was down. So we think that these should have been done.
You were also talking about and asking the government to probably give a industry status to the real estate sector per se.
The industry status means that yes, the risk weightage goes down. That's been a demand for more than 10 years and we don't know why. And why is this being done right now? This is a over-licensed, over-regulated sector. We've brought in a marvelous legislation called the Real Estate Regulation Act, but that has added one more layer to the regulation. So I think these are few things which should have been asked for. Once a rollover for debt, so that whatever companies are in distress, they get a chance to help themselves. Number two, that there should have been a rental policy announcement. We've had a tremendous success in commercial leasing. That's where I think bulk of the foreign direct investment has come in, and this has been very helpful to the industry. That's the only successful segment. So I think it's time that we introduced a rental residential segment company wise, and that would also be beneficial because that the larger the number of apartments being put on rent and being built would mean lower cost and lower rentals. So even for people who are old or for the young millennials, it's all a very good policy to follow.
That brings us to a point wherein we would want to talk about the economic survey, talking about a haircut for the real estate developers.
I think after the economic survey, all the experts who are on various channels today, what we could see, were all recommending that we need to do much more for the revival of the real estate sector. In that, I think there is a misnomer that there's a large inventory of unsold apartments. It is how you look at it. I think the real thing in this country, and which is till now something we are allergic to, that there should be a surplus. That is the best way to keep prices down. Whether it is FMCG goods, whether it is or telephones, whether it is airline seats, whether it is even automobiles. I think wherever we've been able to create a surplus, we have seen tariffs coming down, prices coming down, and the same thing should apply to real estate. However, when it comes to real estate, it is just the other way around that the economists are looking at, or those economists who have a word, who can put in a word and who are interviewed by people like you, that they say there's unsold inventory and therefore please reduce prices. Would they realize that it takes 3 to 4 years to construct a residential apartment, especially in buildings which are high rise? It takes another 2 years to plan and get all your plans ready and plans passed. So therefore, anyone who has to sell, and the prices are all announced earlier. What you are saying is that there should be a haircut from the earlier announced prices.
Right.
They already have borne the 6 years of interest. They've already borne inflation. If we think, you and I think, that putting money, if you had put money into a fixed deposit 6 years ago, you would not get a return which is inflation proof, then the same thing holds good for any real estate product which is unsold even 2 years after completion, that they are bearing a double whammy. First putting in money, then paying the interest on it, and then not being able to sell. So I think anyone who's taking that burden, it would be very wrong to say that please decrease your prices. How many government servants and how many government authorities are willing to decrease their salaries? They only ask for a DA, dearness allowance, to be increased. So I think those are not things which we should be debating about and saying that this is what needs to be done. Why would anybody in the private sector not decrease a price if they can sell faster? But they cannot sell at a loss. And the government does not subsidize any loss caused due to market forces.
That's coming straight from the heart. And from real estate, we'll just quickly move on to another sector which probably is really close to him. That is tourism. We're talking about 100 new airports. Which airlines are going to land there? That's
Yes.
question number one. And two, has enough been done for the tourism industry?
Of course not. I think what we've done is one good thing, which is that the GST was lowered to 18% from 28. I still think it's very high. If you see the competing markets around India, it should not be more than 12%. And it should be, there shouldn't be two slabs, it should be one. The people who are providing you world-class infrastructure, they need to be helped out with. The private sector needs to be helped out with. And therefore, this is the low-hanging fruit, because India is a country which is hugely attractive. Despite the fact that we have gaps in infrastructure, we have gaps in security, we have gaps in female security of tourists.
Does the budget say T for tourism or no?
The budget says 2,500 crores. That is highly inadequate when it comes to marketing in countries abroad and overcoming individual care here. There is no such thing in India where systems work blindfoldedly.
So it's still a long way to
There's
go.
still a long way, and I think it's an industry which can contribute immensely to
And
employment.
we can't be that optimistic as far as inbound tourism is concerned
That's it.
as yet.
Yeah, I think we are more dependent on domestic tourism.
Perfect.
I mean, Indians have learned to make do. We always use, our own phones, our own contacts within the country, and therefore it's very pleasant to do holidays within your own country. But if we are to attract foreign tourists, we'll have to do something more.
Thank you so much for all your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.